Welcome to the Relevance Report, where we explore the relevant stories that are shaping our world today. I'm Michaela Pohl, your host this week. On today's show, we will discuss how media manipulation and fake news has affected the public. Next, we will reflect on the Canada Post strike and its impact on not only the workers, but millions of Canadians. Then, we'll have a look at how voice actors are affected by companies' use of AI. And finally, we will talk about the positive impact that music has on mental health. We all have a thirst for news and information, but how we receive it has changed drastically. As social media becomes more prevalent, misinformation rises. Sarah Kwesi-Alamir discusses what happens to the United Nations agency when faced with fake news.
Manipulating media controls the narrative. It is created by broadcasting, mass communication, or digital platforms to mislead, misinform, or create a narrative that advances their ideologies and agendas. Media manipulation tactics include planting and amplifying misinformation and disinformation, propaganda techniques, digital tools, and targeting journalists or public figures, and ranking algorithms. Media manipulation can have significant and broad-ranging consequences across various aspects of society, and any manipulation or distortion of news can significantly change how people view and judge an event. The consequences of media manipulation are powerful and multifaceted, affecting individual beliefs. UN Relief Works Agency, UNRWA, which provides aid and essential services to Palestinian refugees, is at the center of a crisis over Israeli accusations made in January 2023 that 12 of its staff in Gaza took part on October 7 and had links to Hamas, leading to the organization losing international funding. An independent review says that Israel has not provided evidence to support this accusation. The Israeli accusation led to 16 countries, including the United States, to pause $450 million in UNRWA funding, throwing its operations into crisis. This information can involve intentional deceit and can lead to political polarization caused by fabricated stories to influence confusion, leading to consequences like violence, hate, harassment, and UNRWA's loss of funding. While journalists are responsible for being truthful and unbiased when reporting a topic, the viewers are accountable for identifying bias with critical thinking. Use critical thinking to avoid being misled when watching or reading the news by questioning its credibility and the source, or looking for evidence for its claim. Challenges such as spreading misinformation and fake news must be addressed with critical evaluation and fact-checking. In addition, writers and readers should be critical of the news and content they produce and consume. People trust what they read and believe it to be so without constantly questioning it. If false information was not checked thoroughly, there will be instances where people are misled or misinterpreted a topic. Inaccurate reporting can lead to both misinformation and misinterpretation. Misinformed people can make misinformed decisions.
Although the spread of news may be used in a harmful way, receiving anticipated news in the mail can be the end of an overdue wait. From delayed Christmas gifts to financial stress on small businesses, the Canada Post strike in late 2024 has left its mark. Although Canadians have been inconvenienced due to the strike, there is a deeper story here, one that investigates justice, labor rights, and the true cost of a strike. I looked at both sides of the story. Maybe the Canada Post strike starting in November of 2024 only caused you short-lived mental agony on account of waiting a couple of extra weeks for a cool new pair of shoes. Or, for small business owners, perhaps the strike cost you $76 million per day, according to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business. Either way, millions of Canadians were negatively impacted by the strike. But what about the Canada Post workers who caused the strike? What about the cost of years of unfair wages, poor working conditions, and ignored demands? When Canada Post employees were ordered back to work on December 17, 2024, Jan Simpson, the national president of the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, released a statement saying the order was a clear violation of their charter rights. He said that, despite the abuse of government power, postal workers will stand strong and continue to fight for negotiated agreements. Clearly, there are two sides to every story. On one hand, postal workers are pushing back against unfair circumstances. Meanwhile, the rest of the country is experiencing the consequences of the strike. One disgruntled person even created a website for Canadians to express their discontent with the strike. At what'swrongwithcanadapost.ca, many people shared their opinions. One Canadian wrote, quote, "The country is held hostage and livelihoods are being ruined," end quote. Another simply wrote, quote, "Merry Christmas, Canada Post. I know I won't be having one since you got my check still," end quote. Although the strike ended in December, negotiations are still being discussed more than a month later. On January 17, 2025, the Canada Post released a statement saying discussions between the Post and the union have ended without any new negotiated agreements, but that they are committed to finding a solution and will provide an update in the weeks to come. As human nature goes, it is evident that both sides are focused on their individual needs and falter to recognize how the other side has been impacted. Perhaps postal workers chose an inopportune time to strike, causing Canadians to play victim. Or perhaps Canadians are insensitive to the postal workers' cause and violation of fair workplace rights. So what do you think? Have postal workers caused the country unnecessary distress, or are Canadians overlooking the rights of 55,000 Canada Post workers? On the topic of strikes, voice actors are afraid their voice acting studios might use AI to copy their voices for use in video games without paying them. Their union, known as SAG-AFTRA, asked for protection against this. While many companies agreed, 10 major ones didn't. This led to a major strike in 2024, which remains a concern in the industry today. Jaisha Valiani has more on this.
Voice actors, many of whom work for Genshin Impact's company Hoyoverse, have been told to stop submitting their voice acting work and stop participating in recent game events by their union, SAG-AFTRA. This strike is due to concerns about artificial intelligence potentially replicating the voice actors' vocal performances without the appropriate compensation or their consent. This strike targets several gaming companies, including and specifically Formosa Interactive LLC, which manages Genshin Impact's English voice actors in its entire production. The issue revolves around the lack of contractual protections against unauthorized AI utilization of actors' voices and their work. Because of this, recent in-game events lack English voice acting for most of the characters in the game, making players wonder what the future of the game will look like and whether or not they will get to hear their favorite voice actor again. Beyond that, the strike represents a bigger industry issue, with emerging AI technologies raising concerns about employers using it to create loopholes that set aside many voice actors who have been trained and educated in the work that they provide. It also brings concerns about intellectual property and what the voice acting industry might look like in the future.
With so many voice actors joining the strike, almost all games are affected. Tensions continue to run high as the Screen Actors Guild continue their strike into 2025. Samantha Maxis looks at how some of the actors feel towards the strike.
Voice actors from the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation, and television radio artists began their strike on July 26th of 2024 and continue it as of January 23rd, 2025. The strike's goal is to negotiate AI protections for voice actors in video games due to companies such as Activision, Disney, Warner Bros., and EA not providing AI protection in the voice actors' contracts. Many voice actors joined the strike realizing their contracts would let AI train off them and potentially steal work from them. Talents such as Troy Baker from The Last of Us, Matt Mercer from The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom, and Julie Nathanson from Call of Duty have all joined the strike, with actors worried about if this is their final performance with companies. Interim contracts are becoming more and more important as negotiations progress. This year, voice actors are making good progress towards interim contracts, with 136 video game companies having signed contracts with the Screen Actors Guild over AI protections. Many big companies, like Activision, would still like to haggle over the details though. Zeke Alton, well known for lending his voice to Spider-Man 2 and Overwatch 2, went on to state at a press conference, "The last 2 years have decimated game developers. They've been fired left, right, and center, and now actors and other performers are under threat of complete displacement. And we're looking around going, who's gonna save us? The answer is us." Smaller companies under the big ones have pushed towards helping the Screen Actors Guild, putting pressure on the big ones, while big figures such as Elon Musk have spoken out in favor of just firing the voice actors. But the voice actors refuse to back down until their way of life is secured. What gives big companies like Activision and Disney the right to steal voices with AI anyway?
Perhaps since AI is so easily accessible, the big corporations feel they can use it to exploit people. Exploitation, however, is not acceptable by any means. Big corporation or not, they should not be able to exploit people using AI. The Screen Actors Guild have a long year ahead of them, and it will be interesting to see how it plays out.
Something like music has an amazing way to impact people's mental health. Matthew McNeil explores the profound impact of music on mental health, weaving together insights from a groundbreaking study and his personal experiences. Matthew reveals how melodies, lyrics, and production transform emotions and improve well-being.
A study conducted by Jessica Strong and colleagues highlights music therapy. The objectives were described as using the modified model. We integrated music listening into group intervention and evaluated the outcomes. The study's results showed the indicated decrease in irritation and worry and increases in mood, energy, and self as a whole from pre to post session. In their quantitative findings, attendees reported increased quality of life and engagement with others as a result. Attendees also reported that the format of the group, including music listening and group morality, enhanced their experience. For example, one attendee linked the role of music in mental health in the following quote: "I have a lot of mental health issues. Music helps. Music has a good effect on me. It makes me think. It's good for me to think." Through many resulting interviews, other researchers indicated that interviews with mental health service users provided rich, in-depth accounts for reflecting the complex nature of music therapy participation. From my personal experience, mental health has been a significant challenge for me to navigate. During my high school years, I was often surrounded by toxic masculinity, which made it incredibly difficult to express my emotions. I frequently felt sad, but kept it to myself, and even when I tried to cry as a release, I couldn't. In recent years, however, discovering music has profoundly changed how I process and express my emotions. Music has this incredible power to evoke and influence human emotion. The production, vocal delivery, and themes within an album can help you connect with feelings you might otherwise suppress. For instance, if you're seeking an emotional release, listening to sad music can create the space to tap into those deeper emotions. For me, I went over 5 years without crying, bottling up my emotions until they either felt numb or disappeared entirely. That changed when I encountered the song Squirrel Cinderella by Flowerface. The chord progression, her ability to adapt sonically to the music, her raw, pleading vocal delivery, and the lyrics about feeling alone, betrayal, and self-destruction resonated deeply with the personal loss I was experiencing at the time, and am still dealing with now. That song gave me comfort and understanding that words alone couldn't provide. It allowed me to release the emotions I had been holding back for years. Music doesn't just reflect your mood, it can also change it. When I'm feeling down and want to lift my spirits, I turn to upbeat tracks like Mr. Blue Sky by Electric Light Orchestra. The glittery drum patterns, later electric guitars, 3 separate keyboards, and Jeff Lynne's vibrant, fast-paced vocals create an atmosphere that's almost impossible to resist. Or I might go for something as dynamic and playful as Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Freddie Mercury's genius in blending humor, random tangents, and a mix of musical styles never fails to brighten my mood and transform the environment around me. These songs remind me of music's ability to adapt, to shape and improve emotional well-being. Whether it's offering a cathartic release or lifting up my spirits, music has become an essential part of my mental health journey.
Thanks for joining us for the Relevance Report. This week's episode was produced by Michaela Pohl, Samantha Maxis, Jaisha Valiani, Matthew McNeil, and Sarah Kwesi Alamir. The show was edited by Samantha Maxis and Matthew McNeil. The show's supervising producer is Sheena Rossiter. Additional studio supervision by Sasha Stanojevic. This episode was produced as part of the BCSC 206 Introduction to Audio and Video course in the winter 2025 semester. The course is part of the Bachelor of Communication Studies program in the Department of Communication at MacEwan University. The show was edited and produced out of the MacEwan Media Production Studio. Our theme music is called Buzzing by Kaylee Lambert. Music for this podcast was found on Pixabay. You heard Corporate Motivation Music by Production Music, All the Instruments You Need and To Meet the Dream by Crab Audio. Logo design for this podcast is by Sasha Stanojevic, and I'm Michaela Pohl, your host for this week's episode. This podcast was recorded on Treaty 6 territory, the traditional and ancestral territory of the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis settlements and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 9, 10, and 11 within the historical North Saskatchewan River Territory. Don't forget to subscribe to the Relevance Report on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you heard, please leave us a review and rating. It really helps people find the show. Please join us again next week when we report the relevant stories that are shaping our world.